The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, Season 4. Let's go, baby. Yeah. There was a time I had trouble talking about it. Congratulate them, we know they doubted. Somehow we made it up out the pit, back against the wall, never quit. Traversing through each obstacle, show a non-believer what's possible. Let nothing they could do stand in between me and my wildest dreams. Let's go. And that come at us could come in between. Life gave me the worst, yet my side grew so green. We've been down in the dirt, been tossed in the trash, but I never stray from my path. When we're gone, we ain't looking back.
Maybe we were all way too high. Maybe that's our fault.
It's going to be a crazy time, but it's going to be a fun time.
Life is boring if you don't take some chances and do some things outside the box.
Your destination for both some feel-good lifestyle advice and some fantasy football advice. All right. It is February 7th, 2022. Or actually 2023. My apologies there. The 365-day journey for a shot at glory, the Lombardi Trophy. It all comes down to this, guys. It ends in Scottsdale, Arizona. Chiefs versus Eagles. We're going to chat about all the Super Bowl affairs going on this week. Media Day has been ravishing down there at Radio Row. My name is Seth Woolcock. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, a fresh look at fantasy football and NFL betting. I'm joined by a man fresh off a South American cruise where he certainly consumed some whiskey. Yes. Certainly consumed some beers. Yes. And maybe even a little bit of tree afloat. Guys, that's my brother, Nate Polvo. Welcome back, Paul.
What's up, man? I did consume lots of whiskey and lots of beer, lots of Red Stripe, because it's really hard to find here. We're not going to talk about the other stuff. We'll just say I had a good time, and I'm glad to be back.
There we go. Love to hear it, man. Good to have you back. There was definitely a void around here. I was, looking for you midday, trying to see what you were up to. But glad you had a good time out there. What was your favorite part of the cruise, Nate?
Well, it definitely wasn't sleeping in because we had to share a room with a 5-year-old. So that didn't happen. Just in general, we got to hang out with family. We got to spend most of it with Jen's family, which is really cool. And it's just a good time all around, man.
Well, I'm glad to have you back because tonight on the show, we're going to talk front and center. Of course, Tom Brady, he releases his news right after the show last week on Wednesday, front and center at the beach in Miami there. Derek Carr throwing missiles at the Pro Bowl and then Senior Bowl winners. We're going to talk about that all. Super Bowl player props. I'm excited about that. Jump into a little bit of betting with you, Nate, fresh off your cruise. And then some Would You Rather Super Bowl debates. As always, we got our guy Kyle Scott hanging in the backstage. Jim Scott, how you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, guys. I'm doing great. And Nate, I love Red Stripe, so I'm pretty jealous, not only of the cruise, but now I have another thing to be jealous of.
Me too. When I saw that they had them, and they weren't just the little bottles, they were 16-ounce cans. It's it was a pretty good deal. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty happy about it.
Okay. I've never had Red Stripe, but I am curious about it. Better than Busch Light, Nate?
Much better.
Okay. I don't trust you then. Don't trust you there. We got the IBT family showing up in the chat as well. Toronto Dave saying, what dreams are made of, baby. Brad saying, hey, fellas. We got Yudo saying, I like the video. I appreciate you, Yudo. I always give Yudo a hard time. I say, hey, man, you don't have to even watch our content. Just hit the like button. You're always on your computer. Just hit the like button when we go live. I don't even care if you watch it. But, guys, I do really appreciate the IBT family. We are doing big things here at In Between Media this season. 3 weekly shows rest of the way here. One being this podcast, one being the 19th hole, our DFS and betting PGA content. And then, of course, the back road with me, Elliot, and Rod on Thursday nights covering some NASCAR. And, Nate, we got a lot of cool stuff coming their way very soon. We got new music, new intros, new equipment on the way, and a new layout. I'm super excited about that, Nate.
Yeah, me too, man. Obviously, changing the seasons as you will. It's time for us to change it up a little bit. And I'm stoked to see this new intro.
Yes, our guy Nate Miller has been working hard in the lab on a new song. Really excited to see that. Guys, we will be doing a giveaway here soon too, so keep that in mind. We'll be posting that. We'll talk more about that next week, but I did get our giveaway in item, and it is freaking sweet, Nate. It is freaking sweet.
It's pretty awesome. I'm pretty stoked when we can actually talk about what we get to give away, so
Yes, I absolutely will keep that under wraps one more week. But we appreciate the IBT family being here. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And Nate, let's go ahead and jump into it here with front and center.
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between. How about you come to the place where you have some fun? Ain't gotta worry about knowing not what it means. Keep on coming, give me another, cause the night is young. At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and center.
All right, so we are about 6 days too late on this, but I will say when you're a weekly show in the off season and big news like Tom Brady come out, Nate, it makes it a little bit hard. But we got a heartfelt goodbye, and which really felt like a very authentic video from Tom Brady Wednesday morning that he's retiring, he's hanging it up. All the rumors that we thought maybe he's heading back to Vegas, or maybe he's going to come back to Tampa Bay after all, doesn't come to fruition. Before we get into the fantasy football implications, biggest takeaways of Tom in general and how he said goodbye.
Well, I loved the goodbye. Like you said, it actually did feel heartfelt. We got to watch it while we were on the ship because we ended up getting limited internet access. And it felt real to me. It felt far more real than what we saw last season and whatever his announcement was and the big to-do about it. I think he just got to a point where he was like, look, Tampa Bay couldn't re-sign him. They didn't have the cash. They needed that $35 million freed up so they could actually do something this offseason. They need to go into rebuild. Brady wasn't going to help that. He stays with the team. They're going to be the same team they were, 9-8, middle-of-the-road team. Barely make the playoffs, probably not get past the first round in 2023. He could have gone to Vegas. They probably had the money to get him. But again, that team's too far away from winning. I think he looked at his options and said, you know what? I won 7 Super Bowls, went to 10. I'm the first in every major passing category in playoff and NFL history for that matter. Why keep going? So he had a 10-year deal inked with Fox before the season started.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Nate. And I think the thing, too, is when you look back, like Tom Brady has had 3 additional seasons just from his playoff runs. I mean, this guy has played in so many games, literally my entire life of being an NFL fan, all the way back to the early 2000s. Tom Brady's been a part of it. So I do want to say, thank you to him. And like, he is the GOAT, and there's no debating that in my mind. And he was a kid. I was a Steelers fan, so I hated Tom Brady. I can remember like every time I cried as a kid over football games, it was because the Steelers would lose in the AFC Championship game to Mr. Tom Brady. And really that hate kind of morphed into appreciation over the years, especially when he went down to Tampa and did what he did. So, man, nothing but admiration for the GOAT here, Nate.
Oh, absolutely. I was in the same boat as you as a Broncos fan, perennially competing with him in the AFC. It seemed like Denver could never get a leg up until we got Peyton Manning. Despised the guy. But then I read something really interesting today. It was a quote from Bill Belichick, and it was part of a 5-minute spew he went off on about Tom Brady. I don't know if you've seen this, but he basically said the reason that he's such a good coach is because Tom Brady saw things on the field that no one he had ever coached had ever seen before. His recall was incredible. His ability to recall things from 2-3 seasons ago in a split second on the field and apply that to a situation. Then he could come off the field and explain it to Bill. He was an incredible player. Did he have the most sexy skill set? No, he didn't. But what he did by sheer will and determination, he became he's the greatest quarterback who ever played the game, Seth, and it's not even close. You can talk about Elway, you can talk about Montana, you can talk about Terry Bradshaw, which I don't think anybody's put him in that conversation. It's not close. He won 7 Super Bowls. How many other players have even been to 7 Super Bowls?
Yeah, it was a magical run from Tom Brady, and it was great to see. That was on the Let's Go podcast, I do believe, and I 100% like that's one of those things we've been waiting for. I've always bagged the Let's Go podcast because it's terrible because they do an ad read every 5 seconds, and it's just like a press conference with Tom Brady. You don't get much out of it. But we got something out of there with Bill Belichick, and we also learned in that interview that Tom's really coachable. and that Bill would pull him aside after meetings, be like, hey, like in the beginning, like, I know you're great and everything, but like I have to do that in front of the team. But it really wasn't as bad as I made it out to be. If he missed a wide open receiver, he's like, hey, I need you to do that. That gives me the leverage to lead from a different position. And really, I think that's, part of that Patriots way. So really cool to see that. Congrats to Tom. Excited to see what he can do. I believe he's taking the booth in 2024. So Greg should have one more year in that. He's been fantastic. But Nate, looking at the fantasy implications of this, what happens to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans? Godwin back-to-back wide receiver 2 seasons after a wide receiver 2 overall finish way back in 2019. Mike Evans coming off a season that was really down compared to what he's been in the last couple of seasons here, Nate. However, he has been a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 in every 9 of his career seasons. Like, that is insane. So what do you think happens here with Mr. Evans? What happens here with the rest of Tampa Bay life after Brady?
That's a really good question. Given their lack of cap room, and I mean, really, if you're looking at this team, they have to rebuild. Their defense wasn't great. Their offense wasn't great. Their offensive line was beat up, battered. They need to make some moves to get more cap room, which I think means they're going to move either Godwin, Evans, or both. But you've got to unload those contracts. Leonard Fournette, I think, is going to – I don't think we see him back in a Bucs uniform. This is going to be a different team. I just saw a mock on NFL Network. Lance Zierlein mocked the first round of the draft today. He hasn't taken Anthony Richardson out of –
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
You saw that? It does make sense. But next season isn't going to be a good one in Tampa Bay. I mean, these skill guys are going to move to other places. I think that's really clear. If they hold on to someone, it's probably Mike Evans because he has a slightly friendlier contract than Chris Godwin. And I think because of age, Godwin's going to be far easier to move. I could see him end up in Chicago. I've said that a number of times, that if Tom Brady left, Godwin's going to be on the move. So these are guys like in dynasty formats, I'm okay with kind of holding on to Godwin and Evans and seeing what happens this offseason. But if you're nervous about it and you're loaded, probably kind of move these guys off your roster for what you can get for them now.
We got Brad in the chat saying a lot of people won't like this, but wouldn't Mike Evans pair well with Stephon Diggs, move Gabe Dave to the slot? Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I don't know if they want to completely rebuild this team, though, because there are some contracts they can't get out on the defensive side of the ball, and they still do have a really good defense. I don't think we can discount that either here, Nate. I think maybe they go after a guy like Jimmy G. I still think they probably draft a quarterback too, but I could see it being we're getting a really cool look at this like next tier of quarterbacks behind the first round guys, like behind the guys like Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Bryce Young, and CJ Stroud. We're going to talk about a couple of them later on. We talked about some of them last week as well. And we're getting a cool look at them. So I could see them maybe going for one of these 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders, pair them with Kyle Trask, Jimmy G, see who comes out of that. Any thought that they do go after a veteran here, Nate?
I don't think they can afford it, Seth. Like, plain and simple, I don't think they can afford to pay what Jimmy G is going to want in a contract, because Jimmy G is a quarterback where when he steps in, he can get you to the playoffs and beyond. He's already proven that.
There definitely could be some better offers for Jimmy out there.
And I mean, maybe they sign someone like Gardner Minshew, who's going to be a cheap free agent ad. I don't know. I can't see them making a big splash at quarterback in free agency. I just simply don't think they have the cap room to do it.
All I'll say is that, like, sometimes, like, the NFL salary cap is absolutely fucked. Like, you know what I mean? There are some times that you can really negotiate around it if you can do cash over cap, different things like that. So I'm not too concerned about it. We got Connor saying that they can have Kirk Cousins. We'd pay him. Hey, I understand that one, man. So we'll see what happens here. But realistically, Nate's saying, maybe we should still be holding Chris Godwin and Mike Evans in dynasty formats. We'll see for redraft, but a lot of question marks definitely in Tampa Bay. Thank you again, Tom. Another retirement in the NFL, Nate, that impacts fantasy football, Mr. AJ Green. He kept it short and sweet with his sign off on Twitter. And it was really cool to see because he's like, I haven't been a man of many words throughout my career, so I'll keep this short and sweet. And it was a cool sign off from AJ Green. 12 years for him, wide receiver number 17 as a rookie, had a stellar rookie season, went on to have 4 wide receiver 1 finishes. Unfortunately, since 2018, he's never finished better than the wide receiver 41 over the last 5 years. So we saw the fall off with AJ Green once he got to about age 29, Nate, but it was still a very, very fun ride. And he seemed like a great overall dude, a quiet dude, albeit.
This is one of those situations where I just wish we could have seen what could have been of his career if he hadn't gotten hurt so often. That really derailed him after 2018. We saw with the ankle and the knee injuries, talented receiver. And when they called on him these last few seasons, he came up big in some spots, but he just wasn't that fantasy relevant. Like you said, since 2018, wide receiver 41 was his highest finish. You hate to see it. You hate to see these kind of careers. It's like Alshon Jeffrey, kind of a little bit of a reminder of Alshon Jeffrey, where it's like
AJ Green was on a different tier though. Like
sure.
Green was a dog for so long, and like at least he lasted on NFL rosters. Like at least says who he was, that they kept bringing him back.
Well, yeah, because he was a good locker room guy. So I'm sad to see him go, but I'm not surprised. I would have been more surprised to see him keep going after this last season.
Yeah, the last time we talked about AJ Green, Nate, was week 1. I called him as my sure thing sleeper. That was the emergence of Greg Dortch. So AJ Green, you will be missed. Not in our lineups, but in our hearts, our friend. And absolutely. Derek Carr, Nate, he balls out in the Pro Bowl Skills Challenge in Las Vegas. In his practice arena, he goes out. He turns it up, man. And he had a great quote at the end. They said, "Derek, have you ever been this hot in this building?" He said, "No, that's probably why I'm not going to be here, any longer." So he took it like a champ, Nate. However, I wrote about it yesterday in my column over on the website that I am not I don't care where Derek Carr goes. I'm not going to drink that Kool-Aid again. He had Devontae Adams this season and still regressed quite a bit. The Raiders line wasn't great, but it wasn't like a bottom 5 line or anything. So I think, I'm good on Derek Carr, man. He's had one QB1 finish in his 9 years. So I think I'm good on this one. Is there anywhere he could go that would intrigue you more than myself?
I'd be interested to see him go to like the XFL or USFL and see him tear it up there. But let's be honest. Should we be surprised that he tore it up in a skills competition? No. He's an NFL caliber quarterback, a starting NFL caliber quarterback, a guy I'd take over about probably a third of the quarterbacks who are starting in this league at this point. Yep. But I don't really care about it for fantasy. I don't care where he goes, because where is he going to land?
I mean, you got Tampa, you got the Jets.
He's not going to end up in New York.
Anywhere in the NFC South, Saints, Carolina.
And I know that the Saints got permission to meet with him, but I still don't care. I don't think he's going to make an impact. Where he goes, he's going to be.
He'll be a QB 2. Like that's what he's going to be.
Yeah. He'll be like QB 16 to 20, somewhere in that range. That's been his whole career.
Yeah, 100%. I think he would be decent for Chris Olave if he actually landed in New Orleans. So I would be okay with that because he can hit a deep ball pretty good. Brad in the chat saying New Orleans. Yeah, that would actually be I'd be fine with that for Chris Olave.
But see, my concern with that is Dennis Allen's still the head coach somehow.
Yes, I know. He got by, and so did Ron Rivera. We were both kind of harping on them a couple weeks ago that maybe they shouldn't be employed, but they got by. We'll see what happens in the next coaching cycle here. Nate, I do want to move on to talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl though here as well. And man, there were 2 stars of the week really, and it was senior Evan Hall and Jake Haener. Evan Hall, he's a running back out of Northwestern. I saw this guy play at Penn State, and he didn't really do that much in this game, but it was some really bad conditions there. Derek Brown and the crew over at Fantasy Pros, they put me on to him a month or so ago. I started looking a little more into him. The dude has a 3-down skill set, Nate. He thinks he's going to run a 4.4 40-yard dash time. How do you feel about Evan Hall after the Senior Bowl? Do you think he's at least a name to keep in mind here? Probably a day 2, maybe early day 3 guy at the worst.
Definitely. Running backs with this kind of skill set, you don't ever count out. They could go in the 3rd or 4th round, but still be an impact player at the NFL level. For me, and maybe I'm crazy, draft capital matters a little bit less to me when it comes to fantasy when we're talking about running backs, just because Breece Hall didn't go until the 2nd round. He wasn't a 1st-round running back. And we're going to see guys like Bijan slip until the back end of the 1st round. Roschon Johnson in Texas looked like a beast until he got hurt. He's going to be a guy who could go in the 3rd or 4th round that could be an impact player. I have no issue with looking at him as kind of a sleeper in this draft.
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, he kind of reminds me of Ramondre Stevenson light a little bit. A guy who can do it on all three levels, which I didn't think that was Ramondre coming in, but he's absolutely been that. So Evan Hall, just kind of a name to keep in mind here. The other one, if you are playing, especially in some super flex leagues, dynasty over the offseason as well. Keep in mind Jake Haener out of Fresno State. This guy came in, and all the talk after day 1 and 2 of the Senior Bowl was Jake Haener is a step above all these quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl. That includes Malik Cunningham out of Louisville that we were pretty hyped up about. We previewed Max Dugan, a couple of these other guys, and Haener was the one to kind of take home the cake, and he was so impressive. He won the MVP, Nate. And look, he is an undersized quarterback. He's right around 6 foot. He's not the typical size here, Nate, but he did throw 20 TDs, 4 picks this last season, average over 300 passing yards throughout his career at Fresno State. So I think Haener's a guy, if you are in some super flex leagues, throw him on the back of your bench, see what happens. But like, I could see Tampa Bay taking a shot on a guy like this, let him and Kyle Trask battle it out or something like that. Any thoughts here on Haener?
Again, there's always going to be a dark horse. The kid has skill. I haven't seen a lot of his film, as I was on a cruise ship for most of the Senior Bowl. Otherwise, I would have been at the Senior Bowl. I don't hate it. Fresno State turns out pretty good quarterbacks. I mean, 20 TDs, not super impressive. I feel like his ceiling in the NFL is probably a QB2 in fantasy. But in Superflex, like you said, Dynasty, it costs you. He's going to be a back-end 4th round Dynasty pick in your rookie drafts. Or you just pick him up off waivers before the season starts. You taxi him. You see what happens.
Yeah, just I love kind of looking at these different quarterbacks. We've had a lot of them here. Holton Ahlers that we talked about last week, and a couple of these really down there Barry guys, Stenson Bennett a little bit as well, with his recent incident we've talked about. So I kind of like to just make mention of these guys like Haener. We got Brad in the chat saying that he likes Tajay Spears looking really damn good. RB out of Tulane. Yeah, Tulane is becoming a little bit of a powerhouse in their conference as well. I like a lot of the guys coming out of Tulane there. So Brad, love that comment there. Nate, this was pretty much everything for the news. Let's start looking at what's going to come here when the Chiefs battle. Geez, talk about having a trigger finger on that one. How about it, Nate? A little false start there. I apologize, guys. Of the Chiefs battle the Eagles. That's why we got some new equipment coming right around the corner for you guys. Up our quality a little bit for you. Nate, let's talk about Super Bowl player props, man, because this is one where there are so many interesting players when you actually can just break it down and look at two teams. Because sometimes we forget about the Kenneth Gainwells, we forget about the Noah Grays, the McCole Hardmans, because we're so busy looking at 5 or 6 games, even in the playoffs here. Well, we got one this week, Nate, and we can really look down the list here. And these sports books, I feel like they're panicking a little bit right now. Obviously, we saw the line shift on this game. Chiefs open as early favorites. Now it's in the side of Philadelphia. Over on FanDuel, we can tell you that earlier today, at least 77% of the money is on the Eagles, where I would back as well. So when it comes to that, like these books, there's a lot of weird numbers going around. Nate and I, we kind of poured through them over the last day or two. Nate, what was your overall impressions of the prop market right now? Because I think it's a lot of fun to look at.
It is fun, but oddly, there's just not a lot I'm willing to put my money on at this point. I have a handful of things I'll probably look at as we get closer to the game. I'll probably do some like crazy parlay stacks, some of the DraftKings specials, but these books are making it really hard. Like they're walking these like fine lines that they don't hit during the season because, like you said, there's so many games that they have to cap. It was interesting going through it the last couple of days and trying to figure out what I like, didn't like, what I'm willing to put money on, what I'm not.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna kick us off then because like I really like Started looking through the books earlier this week, and I was really intrigued. And I feel like there are some decent values out there, and one that like my jaw almost hit the floor. I'm going to throw out my first headline here: John's pound the pavement. Jalen Hurts plus 105 at BetMGM, over 10.5 rushing attempts. And here's the deal with this one, guys. He's hit this prop in 47% of the games. To have plus money on that is pretty rare. Also, when you consider he's hit this against teams that they are competitive: Vikings, Lions, Green Bay, Jacksonville. If you recall any of those games against the Eagles, most of them were pretty close when he's hitting these. Even the Colts and the Bears, they're not good teams, but they're games that were relatively close for a lot of it. I think that, including some of those bullshit QB sneaks they do where the boys just get behind him and push him, Nate, I think Jalen Hurts can hit this. Then you factor in the Chiefs. They've allowed the 5th most rushing yards on the 3rd most rushing attempts to quarterbacks this season. So it's a really good matchup for him on the ground. I think things are going to get tight here, Nate. And I like Jalen Hurts to have at least 11 rushing attempts here, plus money on BetMGM. They're the only book right now that I could find that was plus money on that. Everywhere else was like 120, minus 120. So how do you feel about that, Nate?
It's a pretty good bet that this is going to happen. If the Eagles want to win this game, they're going to have to stay on the ground like they have all season.
Don't get ballsy. Like, why get like super ballsy now?
Right.
No,
there's no reason to. And Sirianni's smart enough to know that if he just doesn't get ballsy, Philly's going to win this game. Plain and simple, because the Chiefs defense is inferior to the Philly defense. And historically, the team with the better defense tends to win the Super Bowl. We saw Denver get throttled by Seattle. Denver had the best offense in the league, but Seattle's defense was stellar and stone cold, just shut out the Broncos for the most part. However, Philly has something that most offenses don't have, and that's Jalen Hurts, who is emerging as an elite quarterback. And he's continuing to do it on the ground, which, if you know me, at the beginning of the season, I didn't think he was going to be able to maintain it, but he's done it.
Yes, sir.
And he's done it at a high level, and he's become a more accurate passer, and they're starting to be able to utilize that more. For the Super Bowl, I feel like we're looking at least 15 rushing attempts for Hurts, minimum.
Okay. Well, we just need 11. I'm excited about it. I'd also be interested in parlaying the anytime touchdown for him as well. He's had a rushing TD. He's had 5 in his last 4 games. He's hit it 3 of those last 4 games as well. So I'm interested in that. I just behind this line, man. I mean, Jason Peters, Travis Kelce, you got so many guys who can just lay the hammer down. Right. And when you look at the one weak point now of the Kansas City defense, we used to be able to pick on these young cornerbacks. However, some of them have really, like McDuffie's really turned into a good cornerback out there, opposite of Snead. So I think you can pick on the linebackers, and I think Jalen Hurts is a mismatch for them. Get him on an option or two, and I think he's going to have success there. So Jalen Hurts, I'm pounding the pavement with the Philly Johns there, Nate. Where are you going here with your first prop bet?
So I'm going to go to the other side of the ball, and you talk about how the linebackers can't handle Jalen Hurts. That is very true, but you know who they can handle, unfortunately. Philly D, too much for the other Kelce, holds future Hall of Fame tight end in check. I know, dude, and I was surprised because I went into this thinking, I looked at this prop, I was like, oh, he's going to smash the over, right? It's Travis Kelce in the Super Bowl, of course. However, I think he scores a touchdown. I think he probably has 4 or 5. He might even hit that 6-catch threshold. But I'm taking the under on 6.5 receptions. It's plus 135 on DraftKings. Last game, NFC Championship, Kittle had 1 catch for 4 yards. To be fair, obviously Josh Johnson had to come into the game pretty early, and then Brock Purdy had to come in with that just absolutely fucked up elbow to finish the game.
Right.
But offenses look for that guy. If Kelce was able to get open, or if Kittle was able to get open in that game, they would have fed him, because that would have been the best thing to do to try and keep them in the game. They simply couldn't do it because Philly can cover tight ends. 2 total tight end receptions in the divisional round against the Giants. 1 for Bellinger, 1 for a guy I can't even remember his name because we talked about him maybe for 30 seconds this season. I'm taking the under on this. And I know it sounds crazy.
You're ballsy.
I know but it's not that ballsy because Philly's defense has been really good against tight ends.
Yes.
And I know I know he's an elite tight end. He's, like I said, he's a future Hall of Fame tight end. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying that he might have 4 catches for 140 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game, but he's not getting over 6 catches. It's not going to happen. I can't see it happening against this defense.
Yeah, it's interesting because they do have the cornerbacks in Darius Slay and Bradbury, of course, CJ Gardner-Johnson over the top as well, that they can kind of play a little more one-on-one with MVS, Juju, and those guys. So they can definitely give Travis Kelce, a little more hectic, especially like he's a guy you have to jam right off the ball. Well, they have the linebackers to do it. So, Nate, you make an interesting proposal. Are you interested at all? Me personally, I've been riding it occasionally here and there. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. It's hit the last 2 games, though. Travis Kelce first TD at plus 650. Does that interest you all? Because I definitely feel like it's going to be him, Miles Sanders, or Jalen Hurts. Like, I really feel like it's coming down to one of those 3 players. And Travis Kelce, I mean, they go to him so often, and sometimes they come out so quickly. They do stun teams. I do think Philly might get on the board first, but any interest in Travis Kelce or someone else here for the first TD plus 650?
I'd be more likely to take the Kelce prop on this one than anybody else because I think you're right. Unless Philly gets the ball first, and then it's Jalen Hurts. So it's either Hurts or Kelce. You're praying that the coin flip goes your way, whichever one you want to take. But if the Chiefs get the ball first, yeah, it's going to be Kelce. It's probably going to be like a 40-yard across the middle. Kelce rambles down, knocks over a few people, gets in the end zone. But I don't hate it. At plus 650, put half a unit on it. Call it a day.
Nate, I'm going to go back to you for your next bet here. Someone else from the Phillies that you think could maybe hit the end zone as well.
Well, first of all, they're the Eagles. The Phillies.
Sorry, okay, to
be clear here.
Yes.
So my headline is, I can see for miles and miles, Sanders finds end zone, helps Eagles fly. Clearly, I think the Eagles are going to win this game. So if you're going to put money down on a team to win it, let me tell you, make sure it's Philly. That's why 77% of people on FanDuel have put their money there because they're smart. It's plus 120 on FanDuel this week. It was the best odds. It was the only plus odds I could find for a Miles Sanders anytime touchdown. But it's going to happen. He had 2 touchdowns last week. He hasn't been hyper involved in this offense, but he's shown that he can be effective in the red zone. And this is a week where they really need him to be effective in the red zone against not a phenomenal defense against running backs.
So this one's interesting because I came into this and I was looking actually at some Kenneth Gainwell props because his rushing line across most books right now is around 19.5. So I said, man, Kenneth Gainwell's been tearing it up. Like that should definitely be a higher number. But then I checked it out. And like, when you think about the game script for those last 2, they were very, games out of control that they could run Kenneth Gainwell. They didn't have to worry if he fumbled it or did something stupid. I think Miles Sanders is going to be more involved in this one. He scored in the last 2 for Philadelphia as well. So I really like this one as well, Nate. I think he could be an interesting candidate for that first-time touchdown as well. Miles Sanders, I wrote about him yesterday too because he's quietly at 1,200 yards, Nate. He has been really, really good. He hasn't been as involved in the passing games he once was. Gainwell has taken some of that role as well as Boston Scott.
Which we knew he would.
Yes, and he's averaged over 5 yards per carry. Obviously, like a lot of his future stock in fantasy football comes from being behind that offensive line with Jalen Hurts. But yeah, Miles Sanders has been excellent, man. I'll ride the Penn State guy one more time. Give me it. Plus 120 on FanDuel. I like that. Yes.
It's surprising for me too, because I have been an anti-Miles Sanders truther for years, but they got him involved this season. He looked good. He looked effective when they needed him. And look, he's not fantasy-wise. I don't love him. I don't love him moving forward. He's not someone I'll ever draft at his ADP more than likely.
I possibly will if he's still with the Eagles.
We'll see how the Super Bowl goes. But it's unlikely for me. However, this is a game where he's going to score a touchdown.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too because like he really like had over 90 plus more carries than he's ever had in a season coming into this season. So super cool to see the emergence of Miles Sanders. I'm just kind of giddy about it honestly because I didn't realize until like really reflecting on the season, like, damn, Miles Sanders is pretty good, especially where most people got him in drafts around that RB3 range. So, Nate, I'm going to round us out here. I'm going to take another attempts prop. I'm going to do Patrick Mahomes minus 120 bet MGM over 38.5 passing attempts. And to me, I think this one's another easy one. Obviously, they're not giving you plus money on it, but Patrick Mahomes, his total passing attempts over his last 2 Super Bowls, first one against 49ers, 42. They won that one. Next one, they're down to Tampa Bay, which I am expecting them to trail Philly at some point in this game, 49. Eagles are a better offense than both of those teams were, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring affair. 43 attempts for him against the Bengals. He's going to be closer to 100% in this one than he was in that one. And I don't think they can run on the Eagles front four, if I'm going to be honest with you. Isaiah Pacheco have been a great story. Joe Tooney and the boys have turned it on at times. However, I just think that front four for the Eagles is too good. I don't think they're going to be able to get past Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, and the boys. So I think they're going to have to throw it here. Nate, we saw it against the Giants, San Francisco. They couldn't run too much outside of a Christian McCaffrey lit touchdown run. How do you feel? Because I think if they do have a chance, it's going to be on Mahomes' back, and he's going to have to throw over 39 times.
No, 100% agree with you. I would be shocked if he threw it less than 40. I would put a cap at about probably 52, 53. I think we could see that depending on what the score of this game is. But you're right, they can't run the ball. And for that reason, I almost came to the table with Jerick McKinnon over 3.5 receptions, because I think he's going to see a fairly significant usage in this game. It's almost free money, honestly.
Oh, you said it. You jinxed us.
I didn't jinx anybody. You and Jen with your jinx stuff.
Hey, you gotta watch. I learned from professional sports gambler. You cannot say that word, or it is. Last time we said that did not hit, but but no, Nate, I really like these props we threw out. Hopefully, a couple of you guys out there at home, you're jumping on some as well. We got Brad here in the chat. He's saying he saw one on an Australian sports book. Okay, good to see there's some sports gambling over there in Australia as well. Last TD of the game, Philly defense 36-1. I mean, if they are trailing the Chiefs at the end, this certainly makes sense, Brad. For 36-1, I might mind sprinkling, a quarter, an eighth of a unit, something like that, small on it. Philly defense. I mean, dude, Nate, this is like a defense that might break the all-time sack record as well. I don't think people are giving that enough credit.
No, I like this call. Obviously, Brad, very smart. It's a good call. I mean, for those odds, why not? Like you said, just pepper a little bit on that one just to kind of sweeten the pot here and see what happens.
I would also, depending what your book has out there, Brad, consider Travis Kelce last touchdown, because I don't think if he gets the first one and if the Chiefs are trailing, who are they going to look for down the stretch? It's going to be Travis Kelce. We've seen that before as well. So keep Travis Kelce in mind. Nate, let's go ahead and round out the show tonight with our final segment of Would You Rather?
Risky business or that fair say. Are you that hard on the rocks? We're chilling with a cold one. Even bold one or hold back. Would you rather? This ain't no simple matter.
All right, and as always, to round out the show, we're going to bring in the man behind the glass. Some call him the Wizard of Oz. Some call him Carrot Top. Some call him Kyle Scott. I call him Jim Scott. What's up, Kyle? How you doing tonight?
If anyone called me half of those names, I'd kick their ass.
Okay.
Dude, you're not that far from Seth. We could do a in-between pay-per-view MMA match between Seth and Kyle.
If Seth ever called me the Wizard of Oz in real life, he'd be on the ground so fast.
You're the man behind the mirror, though. Like you're making everything work. You know what I mean? But the Wizard of Oz wasn't kind of a nice guy, but you're a nice guy. So that's probably bad. Those were bad comps.
He ended up being okay.
Yeah, and the only reason I said Carrot Top, too, is probably not like a good comp either, but he was on Radio Row today. He was on a couple different NFL shows, so it kind of made me think of him. So apologize about that. Bad intro there, Kyle. That's on me.
You've had better for sure.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Kyle, would you rather tonight? We're going to talk Super Bowl edition. I heard you got some lit questions for us, my friend.
Yeah, friend of the show, friend of me and you, friend of also Nate, friend of all of us, friend of everyone, Elliot Hicks contributed a question or two to this, so we have some something special planned for today.
All right, let's see it, man. Let's see it, because like the Super Bowl is actually like it's kind of a controversial thing, like how you take it in. Are you out at a bar or you at a party? Do you want to do it alone? Like there are a lot of questions to be answered, so let's hear them.
Brad's on my side in terms of the intro.
Yeah, for sure, Brad. That was a terrible intro. I've given some amazing intros in my life. I've given some cruddy intros. That was a bad one. I apologize. Kyle, do you want me to kick you out and we should just do a new intro?
No, I think we should just get into the game.
All right.
Focus on next week for the intro.
All right, yeah. Next week's the real one that matters. You're
Yeah.
right. All right, let's roll here. What's the first question you got for us?
Okay, so the first one we're gonna have is: would you rather watch the game by yourself on a really nice TV or with friends on a shitty TV?
Nate, how do you feel?
When I watch football, I need complete and total focus. And here's what people don't understand about, or choose not to understand about our life as analysts. This is Christmas. This is everything we have worked all season towards. We have analyzed and poured over numbers, and we get the Super Bowl. So I'm going to watch it by myself with Jen, of course. When I say by myself, with our really nice TV, probably in the basement, and turn off my phone and put on headphones.
Oh, do you have the headphones set up to the TV?
No, but I will. Now I feel like I have to do it.
Yeah, that's lit. I agree with you though, Nate. Honestly, like if I had a select group of friends who were also interested in football, close to as much as I would enjoy, hanging out with them. Like in college, we used to get together, a couple of us, but like we were all fantasy stooges as well. We did a podcast together before we did this podcast. Like, and that was fun and that was cool and I could accept that. But it was like everyone was quiet during the game. We were taking in the commercials. Like you have to enjoy the experience. Kyle, you and I have taken in a couple Super Bowls together, and I feel like you and I have enjoyed the experience, but also been like respectful of like, hey, this is the Super Bowl. Like, I'm not trying to get crazy. I'm trying to actually watch the game,
Yeah, it's kind of like the difference between like St. Patrick's Day in America and Ireland. It's a big party. Everyone gets drunk over here in America, but it's like a religious thing.
Oh,
Ireland.
really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You go to church.
Oh,
very much so. Yeah.
But there is a bit of a movement to get it to be more Americanized over there, but mostly in like Dublin. So yeah, I mean, in terms of me, I would pick with friends.
Okay. Kyle, you're a social butterfly, though. You're a social butterfly, my friend. So no doubt about it.
Watching the Super Bowl by myself sounds awful.
Hey, I enjoy it. Just me, myself, Katie, our cat. I'm gonna have a good time. Brad saying game by himself, especially if it's his team. Yeah, if it's my team, like I don't want to be fucked with. Like the one year I had to watch it. I mean, I was probably 12, but I was at a Super Bowl party as I was a kid. I mean, this kid's parents went all out. We had a nacho bar. I mean, it was just spectacular. Like we were getting drunk off Mountain Dew. It was fun as hell. But the Steelers were in the Super Bowl, and I had to watch them lose. And I cried that night in front of a lot of people that I wish I didn't cry in front of. But, like, I felt it. I felt that. So, Brad, I'm with you there. If it's my team in the Super Bowl, I'm not going anywhere close to anyone else that is also not a fan of that team and is feeling that hurt as well. So, Kyle, next question for us, please.
Yeah. So the next question is going to be, would you rather host someone who doesn't know when to leave or host someone who doesn't know when to cheer?
Ooh, this is not hard for me. I want the person who knows when to leave. I don't care if you cheer at the right time because I'll cheer for myself at the right time. But when people don't know when to leave, it is the most frustrating thing in the whole world. You're tired, you just want people out of your house, and that one person who just sits on your counter and hangs out. No. I don't care if you don't know how to cheer.
Yeah, same. I don't know if, like, I hope I was never the person in someone's life who didn't know when to leave. Kyle, you and I have been friends for a long time. I feel like you've never been that person. Have I ever been that person to you?
No, I can think of a very specific instance where I was that person to you, and I really don't want to talk about it though.
Okay, fair enough. I don't remember that at all, but um, we got Brad in the chat saying, so Nate, does invite still stand to come to your place? I know when to leave.
Well, Brad, if you're here, buddy, you're here from Australia and you never have to leave. So there you go.
There you go. All right. Yeah, I'm definitely with you guys. I don't care if you don't know how to cheer. It's all good. I'm not going to be cheering too much this Super Bowl unless a couple of my props hit. So,
Yeah.
Kyle, what else do we have on the docket here tonight?
Yeah, so the next question is going to be, would you rather spend the Super Bowl with Chiefsaholic or a super fan from Delco?
All right, so we got to set the stage here a little bit. Chiefsaholic, you guys might know him, internet famous. He was the guy in the wolf mask who wore him to Chiefs game, also wore them to rob some banks. He would hit up some different banks on his way to some different away games. That's how he fed his Chiefsaholic addiction. And he got caught in Texas earlier this year, I think around a Houston game. So Chiefsaholic, I don't know if he's out or not, but would you rather spend the Super Bowl with him or a super fan from Delco, Delaware County? And Kyle, can you explain kind of like to those not from Pennsylvania, like what Delco Philadelphia Eagles fans might be like? No stereotypes,
Yeah, so like Delco Philly fans, Eagle fans, I should say, sorry. Uh, they're who you're thinking of when you're thinking of the fans who are climbing the poles and kicking horses and throwing batteries. They're those guys.
They think they're
And
from Philly too, but they're not. They're outside of Philly.
yeah, and they talk like this, you know. So hey yo, how many touchdowns do you think Jalen Hurts is gonna throw today? I'm saying at least 18.
Delco, baby. We got Brad's in the chat at least giving his feedback. He's saying probably going Delco because if I'm watching the Super Bowl with Chiefs Holic, I'm in prison. I don't feel like going to prison right now. He's taking Delco. I'll be honest, like if I had to pick between a Delco man tomorrow, Sunday, or Chiefs Holic in my living room with me, I think I'm going Chiefs Holic. I think I'm going Chiefs Holic. He ain't gonna rob me. He ain't gonna I'll make sure I'm packing like Kyle Busch heading down below the border here. But I don't think I could do the Delco thing, Kyle, unless they're bringing some lit Philly cheesesteaks. That's it. But none of that Pats and Geno shit.
I don't know what Brad's thinking here because Delco guy's definitely been to prison. Yeah, it was a misdemeanor though.
Nate, how do you feel? How do you feel about this question, and two, Kyle's Delco accent? Because it is absolutely on point.
No, the Delco accent's fantastic, Kyle. Big props. I can't do accents. I've been trying for Jackson lately. I did a fancy hello, governor.
Okay.
For Jackson the other day, and that's about as good as I get, right? However, I am not spending the Super Bowl with a fucking Chiefs fan. No way.
He's the Chiefs fan. He's Chiefsaholic, Nate.
Then even more reason why I don't want to be anywhere near this asshole. I'll take the Delco fans 1,000 times over because seriously, dude, I grew up in Denver.
Okay.
I can't do it.
Here's the thing though. The Delco people ain't gonna know when to leave, Nate. Like,
well, that's fine because they're not going to be at my house. I'll just leave. I'll leave.
No,
I am the king of the Irish exit. And I do it all the time. So, when we used to go places, I don't care.
Fair enough. I didn't say host. I didn't say you had to host these people.
I love rowdy, dude. I love rowdy Philly people for some reason. Maybe it's because Joe Pepe is one of my good friends. Shout out Joe. I love people from Philly and surrounding. I love Pennsylvania. I love my Pennsylvania people, man.
Let's go, baby. That's us, Kyle. That's us.
It is you guys. It's true.
All right, Kyle. I think we got a couple more here. Let's round some out.
Yeah. Side note, Delco guy is definitely not knowing when to leave. He thought he was staying over.
Well, and plus the Delco guy probably gets me so wasted that I don't even know he's not.
That's
leaving.
true. That's a good point.
He's gonna need to stay over.
Yeah.
So All right. Would you rather have to have your Super Bowl food be slowly delivered from a Mexican restaurant? So, like, you're calling and they say, oh, yeah, it'll be like an hour, but it's the Super Bowl, so it's going to be like 2.5. Or, oh, and the Mexican restaurant has mixed reviews. Or
Oh,
pick up
sketchy Mexican, never a good call.
or pick up average pizza, but it's an hour away.
This is like biting the bullet either way here, Nate. How do you feel about it? You know some good Mexican out there. This Mexican has some mixed reviews. Or you getting in your car on Super Bowl Sunday and driving 2 hours for mediocre pizza.
Bro, show me a Mexican restaurant that doesn't have mixed reviews. They're all good.
That's true.
Honestly, what we have found is the ones with the worst reviews are probably better because it's a bunch of picky gringos that just don't understand Mexican food. I'll take the slow delivery from a Mexican restaurant because I ain't driving an hour to pick up pizza during the Super Bowl. You kidding me? I'll take the risk of severe diarrhea the next day because regardless, it's probably really good Mexican food.
Listen
In
on
fact,
the radio.
we took a chance on sketchy Mexican food Sunday night when we got home and they screwed up our order. But you know what? I would have taken that over pizza still.
Uh, I don't really like Super Bowl. I don't really want to get in my car and go anywhere. I kind of want to, prep for the day
Yeah.
and get ready.
So make your own sketchy Mexican food.
However, if I'm forced between these two, I've had some bad Mexican that's led to some bad days in my life, guys. Like days where you question a lot about yourself. And I have to say that I would drive an hour away for mediocre pizza. I'd make it a trip. I'd go do something else while I'm also doing that. Hey, is there a frisbee golf course in there? Hey, is there, a little brewery action, a little bar I can hit up, have a little time with it. That's where I would go. Kyle, I don't know if you've had the bad experience with Mexican food that I have. Which would you do here?
So I think we're all discounting when you're ordering here, because if you go early enough, you're not missing anything if you go get the pizza,
Yes.
you
Yep.
know.
Agreed.
But if you stay home and get the Mexican food delivered, you're stuck watching the pre-show, and who cares?
What's wrong with the pre-show?
It's
I like a
boring.
little pre-show action, but too much pre-show action gets me anxious,
There's
honestly.
7 hours
Well,
of pre-show.
that's when you're doing shots.
I actually like. I guess this is a good time to bring this up. But like, do you guys drink during the Super Bowl? Because I really don't. Like, I'm not really a drinker during the Super Bowl.
I drink slowly.
You just said you're
Sure,
ripping
yeah.
shots.
Well, before the
In the
game, not
pregame.
during.
Okay, Kyle, do you drinking during the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, my kid's going to be awake for the majority of the Super Bowl this year, so there'll be very minimal alcohol intake.
Yeah, I maybe that's weird. Maybe I'm weird. Like I just don't drink during the Super Bowl. Like I don't drink too much on Sundays, but maybe that's just me.
I think that is just you.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Father Seth.
Well, Kyle, I think that kind of relates to one of our last questions we have on there as well.
Does it?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Pull it up. You know what I think I'm talking about. I hope.
There's 2 left.
All right. Pull one of them up. Okay. Yep.
All
I
right.
got it. I got it.
Okay,
I got it.
okay.
Here. All right.
Would you? Sorry.
Go- Would you
Would you
rather
rather
have?
have?
You got it. You got it here. Sorry, I was stomping on your terrain.
Would you rather have the day after the Super Bowl be a holiday, or the day after the first day of the NFL draft be a holiday?
either way, you get a 3-day weekend.
I prefer the 3-day weekend that starts on Friday though. I prefer that because I like having 4 days, getting my stuff done, going into Friday, knowing, I can have a good night on Thursday, getting started rather than going into the next week and being like, oh, I don't have to go to work on Monday. That feels weird to me. I kind of like to work on Mondays a little bit. So I would definitely go the NFL draft. Like I drink on the night of the NFL draft, weirdly, and it's a Thursday rather than I do the Super Bowl. I like the NFL draft as much as I do the Super Bowl, honestly, guys. So yeah, I'm gonna go the day after the draft here. For me, Nate, any feedback from you?
So wait, is this a question for all the IBT people? I didn't know I started getting paid holidays yet. That's pretty dope. I'll take the day after the draft.
Okay. He's taking the day after the draft too. Kyle, what about you?
Honestly, when I saw this question, I thought that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why, why would the day after the draft be a holiday?
That shit goes late. 32 picks takes longer than you think, bud.
All right,
I'm getting rowdy too.
But also, it takes place in late April, and that's going to coincide with Easter quite a bit, I feel like.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah.
Wait, you guys don't get wasted for Easter too? Is that just me?
Seth doesn't drink on Sundays.
Yeah, no
That's
drinking on.
right.
It has to be
Is Easter on a Sunday this year?
It's a Sunday.
I think it was 420 last year, but that's a different conversation to have. All right, so Kyle, let's move to the final question and round out the show here tonight.
Okay. This is actually the question that everyone's friend Elliot Hicks wrote. So, would you rather win all of your bets, but your favorite team loses, or lose all your bets, but your favorite team wins?
How much money do I have on the line here?
However much you're betting. That's all your bets.
Oh, well, I'd never put that much on. So I'm taking my favorite team to win.
I sometimes get a little greedy, especially in some of these games. But to be honest, if my team was in it, I would probably bet less because I don't want to have conflicted interests.
Yep.
So, yeah, I would definitely take my team, man. It hurts too bad to get to the Super Bowl and not win it. I mean, I don't know. I haven't felt that in a good 10 or so years. But, yeah, betting aside, I probably won't bet on it if the Steelers make it again.
Yeah, I'm probably with you. I think a Super Bowl is more important than, $20 profit. So,
hey, unless you hit that 36-1 or Brad's talking about, if I can hit that and I can throw, little Mr. Benjamin on that, hit that. Hey, my kid's got college for a while, so I might take that. I'll be all right with that.
that's 3,600.
36-1, right? Yeah, 36-1. Throw a Benjamin.
Yeah.
What's a Benjamin? 50?
100.
Yeah, dude, that's good money. You're making good money.
I'm glad to know my show co-host knows his currency faces.
Yeah,
Seth,
I
who's
thought
on
it
the
was
dime?
100, but I had to make sure.
What president is on the dime?
Lincoln.
No.
It's a
Damn
penny. Isn't
Kennedy.
it? Kennedy's on the quarter.
Kennedy's
know,
not
Kyle.
on the quarter.
Kennedy's not on the quarter.
Kennedy's not on the quarter.
Can you tell me, Kyle? Jefferson?
It's FDR.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Well,
He started
guys,
the March of Dimes.
luckily we are not a coin podcast. We are a fantasy football
Thank
podcast.
God.
And this has been a lot of fun covering the Super Bowl, talking a little bit of would you rather, some bets, talking about some of this latest NFL news. We appreciate the IBT family rolling with us today. Appreciate you guys rolling with us all season long. We got some really, really cool stuff for you guys. We talked about it at the top of the show coming your way. We want you guys to be a part of this. Like, I would love for this giveaway that we have in a couple weeks that it's one of the IBT family members in here with us each and every week. I would love that, you guys appreciate what we're gonna level it up here, Nate. I think that's the next thing here. We're gonna level it up. So appreciate all you guys. Appreciate you and Kyle as well, Nate. Take care. Good luck to the Eagles here and the Delco guys out there. And
Eagles.
Kyle, thank you as always for being the Wizard of Oz here on the podcast.
Why are you gotta?
Take care, everyone.
Your destination for both some feel-good lifestyle advice and some fantasy football advice.